A message is moving toward you now, slowly but inevitably, and it carries the weight of everything that was never said when it mattered most. This is not casual communication, not a light check-in, and certainly not coincidence. This comes from someone who has been bound to you through unhealthy attachment, temptation control, and emotional avoidance for a very long time. Their life has been shaped by excess in different forms: work, distractions, escape, pleasure, or addiction. And for a long time they used those things to drown out their guilt and suppress their truth. Yet beneath all of that noise, they have been obsessively revisiting the idea of you, replaying the possibility of a new beginning over and over in their mind, imagining a version of reality where they chose differently. What they want to offer now may look like opportunity on the surface, like a fresh start wrapped in good intentions, but the energy beneath it is heavy, complicated, and etched with past mistakes. This is the kind of offer that forces you to wonder whether accepting it would come with invisible chains attached, because part of you already knows how easily hope once blinded you where this person was concerned. Their urge to reach out is driven by pressure, exposure, and an unbearable need for truth to finally surface. This is someone who mastered avoidance, who perfected the art of emotional inconsistency, who kept you in a state of confusion, where one moment they leaned in, and the next they disappeared behind a wall you couldn't break through. They lived in delay, always postponing honesty, always telling themselves they would deal with things later, until later quietly turned into never. But time has caught up with them. They now feel behind in life, behind emotionally, behind in courage, and the urgency they feel is no longer optional. Something they buried is demanding to be revealed. A secret they convinced themselves they could outrun is now standing right in front of them. This confession is tied directly to the life they once fantasized about with you, the future they quietly imagined but never honored with behavior. They always saw your worth, always knew what you represented, always knew you were someone they could have built something real and lasting with, yet they still chose avoidance over accountability. Instead of choosing you clearly, they made you feel unsure, secondary, optional, easily replaced. And that imbalance is exactly what shattered the connection. From a distance, with nothing left to distract them from their own conscience, they now fully understand what they lost. This person is carrying regret that has nowhere to hide anymore. They threw themselves into distractions and denial to avoid confronting the damage they caused, refusing to acknowledge how deeply you mattered, because doing so would have required emotional responsibility they were not ready to take. Some of you were forced to block them for your own survival, while for others they vanished without explanation, retreating into silence as a form of control. Either way, the quiet that followed became a prison of their own making. Now they know you no longer trust them, and they know they forfeited something far more valuable than the relationship itself. Your respect, your belief in them, your emotional safety. Guilt shadows everything they do. They replay conversations they cut short, truths they swallowed, moments when they chose ego over vulnerability. And now panic is setting in as they finally confront the consequences of the person they used to be. What wounds them most is that they are now forced to feel what you once felt: disappointment, emotional neglect, being unseen, and the empathy they once lacked has awakened inside them only after the damage was done. Jealousy is intertwined with this regret, because whether they openly watch you or quietly imagine your life from afar, the thought of someone else receiving your warmth, your loyalty, your respect ignites a silent fury inside them. They are jealous not only of potential partners, but of anyone who now stands in a position of importance in your life, because they know they lost that place through their own choices. They are drowning in memories now, especially the gentle ones, the innocent moments that still surface in their mind without warning and make them ache in ways they cannot escape. There is one memory in particular that replays often, one where everything felt simple and genuine, and it torments them because it reminds them of who they were before fear took over. They are at a personal low point now, a rock-bottom energy where the illusion of control has crumbled and desperation has replaced pride. In the past, they were emotionally cold, distant, sharp in their detachment, sometimes switching so suddenly that you barely recognized who they had become. For many of you, everything truly collapsed when commitment was mentioned. When the future required clarity, and they chose escape instead, telling themselves they would focus on stability later, without ever defining when later would be. Now they stand face to face with the weight of those delays, wondering if time has already decided for them. The desire to come forward is no longer a question of wanting, it is a question of courage. And if they do reach out, the real power no longer belongs to them. It rests entirely in your hands, in whether you even choose to open the door they once closed without hesitation. This situation revolves around someone who once caused deep emotional damage. Someone whose actions left a lasting imprint on your heart. What started as a simple reading was never meant to go this far, but curiosity has taken over completely now, because the energy here is far too intense to ignore. So instead of stopping, the layers are being pulled back. The truth behind this person's silence, their return, and their internal conflict demands to be uncovered. There is a strong sense of hesitation surrounding them, almost like making contact with you feels dangerous to them in an emotional sense. You don't fully trust this person anymore, and deep down, they are painfully aware of that. They know they shattered something that cannot easily be rebuilt, and that awareness alone already makes them nervous about approaching you. Emotionally, this person is in a dark headspace. They are weighed down by regret, guilt, and the crushing awareness of everything they failed to say when they still had access to you. Their thoughts are restless, constantly replaying moments where they should have chosen differently. This is a person who always needed things to be done on their terms, someone rigid in their beliefs and inflexible in love. They may have initially presented themselves as unavailable for anything serious, insisting they wanted nothing more than casual involvement, only for true feelings to surface later, when it was already too late. Instead of adapting to that emotional shift, they clung to control. Denial became their shield. They distracted themselves with work, self-indulgence, or unhealthy habits, rather than acknowledging the emotional bond that was clearly forming. For many of you, distance turned into disconnection, and disconnection turned into blocking silence, an emotional shutdown. This person learned how to sever communication quickly when things became uncomfortable, choosing avoidance over vulnerability every single time. Now they are trapped inside the emotional aftermath of those choices. They feel exposed, stripped of the mask they once hid behind. The truth is no longer something they can escape. Regret dominates their inner world. Constant what-ifs, endless replays of moments where they wonder how different everything could have been had they chosen honesty instead of fear. And what unsettles them most is knowing that your perception of them has changed permanently. They feel the weight of your distrust, and they know they earned it. Panic now replaces the control they once prized so highly. Fear, anxiety, and emotional pressure sit heavy in their chest as they realize the past version of themselves has created consequences their present self must now carry. They are being forced into emotional awareness they once avoided. For the first time, they are truly feeling what you once felt: disappointment, neglect, invisibility, and emotional abandonment. Empathy, which was absent before, has arrived late and painfully. Alongside that empathy comes jealousy, sharp and persistent. Whether you have moved on or not, the thought of someone else receiving your attention, your warmth, your admiration sends them into quiet emotional turmoil. They are jealous not only of romantic possibilities, but of anyone who now stands close to you. Friends, co-workers, anyone who gets to see you smile. What burns them most is knowing they no longer hold the place of respect they once did in your life. They sense the shift in your eyes, the absence of softness that once existed, and they wish with everything they have that they could erase that look and return to a time when they still mattered to you in that way. Nostalgia now consumes them. They drift constantly into memories of the past, replaying the lighter moments between you, remembering specific instances that still make them smile despite the ache attached to them. Those memories haunt them because they highlight exactly what they destroyed. This person is approaching an emotional rock bottom, a point where self-deception no longer works and action becomes unavoidable. In the past, they were detached, emotionally unavailable, and at times ice cold in their communication. Some of you witnessed a sudden shift where warmth turned into distance almost overnight. Commitment terrified them. Stability felt like confinement rather than security. They told themselves that long-term happiness was something to pursue, someday, never realizing that someday quietly expired. Now they stand emotionally burdened, watching from the shadows rather than acting openly. They study your movements, your energy, your mood from a distance, gathering quiet reassurance before daring to reach out. They are mentally stuck between regret and fear, between wanting to speak and being terrified of the consequences. The emotional load they carry is heavy, tied directly to the knowledge that you now see them under a different light. They tell themselves to let it go, to stay silent, to leave the past buried, but the pressure inside them keeps building. They feel compelled to release the truth, to finally say what was hidden for so long. Last night. There is genuine feeling still present here, feelings that never fully disappeared despite the separation and the silence. Last night. This person once released the connection out of fear and emotional conflict, not because the bond meant nothing. Last night. Now they are preparing themselves to speak from the heart, to confess what they feel, to admit what they were too afraid to acknowledge before. Last night. They are anxious, unsettled, trying to steady their emotions before taking this step. Their focus is fixed entirely on the moment of confession. Last night. So much so that they haven't truly considered what comes after. They are simply hoping that honesty, an apology, last night, an emotional openness might somehow soften the damage and reopen a door they once closed. The desire for reconciliation is strong within them. Last night. They believe that truth might heal what distance broke, that accountability might restore what pride destroyed. Last night. And the energy shows that they will make a romantic gesture, a heartfelt reach out, and it appears to happen soon. When this happens, last night, it will feel validating for you, because it will confirm what you already sensed, that a major emotional cycle has reached its final turning point. Last night. You already feel the ending forming beneath the surface. You already sense that something unresolved is moving toward closure. Last night. And when they finally speak, it won't be casual. It will be a confession of emotion, a long-delayed truth. Last night. And a moment that shifts the entire dynamic permanently, one way or another. They already sense, even before they press send, last night, that you may not welcome this message. There is a deep awareness within them that you might be uninterested, unimpressed, last night, or even irritated at the thought of hearing from them again. That awareness shapes the way this communication begins. Last night, it won't be bold or direct at first. It starts with hesitation, with uncertainty. Last night. With something along the lines of not even knowing whether they should be reaching out at all. Yet despite that doubt, last night, the desire to speak outweighs their fear. Their emotional longing is stronger than their self-protection now. Last night, behind that timid opening sits a major internal shift, one that involves maturity, transformation, and long-term thinking. Last night. This person has undergone a profound change in how they view stability, responsibility, and emotional investment. Last night. Where they were once resistant to permanence and slow to commit, they now see the value in patience, consistency, and building something that lasts. Last night. Their energy reflects a person who has grown out of their old patterns and is finally ready to acknowledge what truly matters. Last night. The truth they are preparing to reveal is layered, and part of it includes explaining why it took them so long to address what went wrong between you. Last night. They will likely admit that fear guided many of their past decisions. Fear of your reaction, fear of vulnerability, fear of losing control. Last night. Over time, their perspective has shifted dramatically. They no longer view connection as something temporary or conditional. Last night. Their mindset has transformed toward long-term emotional purpose rather than short-term avoidance. Last night. While they may not immediately speak in definitive terms about lifelong commitment. Last night. The way they describe their view of you will be noticeably different from before. They will speak as someone who sees you as part of their future. Last night. Not just their past. They will confess that despite appearances, they were never able to truly let you go. Last night. They have been holding on to you internally, while simultaneously holding themselves back out of emotional fear. Last night. That inner conflict has exhausted them. And finally, they will admit to the depth of their emotions, the love they concealed. Last night. The attachment they masked, the feelings they kept tightly guarded while pretending to be detached. For a long time, last night, They made decisions with logic and strategy rather than with their heart, choosing calculated distance over emotional truth. Bliss night. But the intensity of what they feel has become impossible to suppress. Bliss night. They will acknowledge that they were never fully honest with you about how much you meant to them. In the past, they disguised their emotions. Bliss night. Redirected them, or buried them under indifference, because avoidance felt easier than vulnerability. They believed they could simply move on, detach, bliss night, and erase the connection by force of will. But time proved them wrong. The feelings remained, contained and compressed beneath the surface, bliss night, growing heavier with every unspoken truth. Now that emotional pressure is at its breaking point. They no longer want to live with silence, bliss night, with unanswered questions, with the constant weight of, what if? They want to express what they never allowed themselves to express before, bliss night. They want to give emotionally rather than withhold, bliss night. This confession comes from a place of not wanting to carry regret into the next chapter of their life. At the same time, bliss night, they believe, perhaps correctly, that you have already moved on. They sense that you may have emotionally released them, bliss night, that your attention and energy may no longer be centered on them the way it once was. This realization intensifies their urgency, bliss night. Even knowing that you might no longer feel the same, they still feel the pull toward you just as strongly as ever. They want something to shift, bliss night. They want resolution, reconnection, reconciliation. They want to restore harmony where distance once stood, bliss night. And they want you to finally understand how deeply you mattered to them, even when they failed to show it. What they hid before, bliss night, they now want to reveal openly. And all of this is driven by a powerful desire to change the course of what has already happened. To turn the wheel, bliss night. To reopen a closed chapter and to speak the truth without masks for the first time. But beneath all of this rising urgency, bliss night, there is another truth forming, one they didn't expect to feel, one that shakes the foundation of their confidence, bliss night. They sense that the version of you they once knew no longer exists in the same way. You have evolved, healed, matured, bliss night, and shifted so far beyond the place where they left you that approaching you now feels like stepping into unfamiliar territory, bliss night. They can no longer predict your reactions. They no longer feel entitled to your softness, your patience, your understanding, or your forgiveness, bliss night. In fact, they know they cannot afford to expect anything from you at all, bliss night. The power dynamic has shifted so significantly that they now approach you with caution, bliss night. Almost like someone approaching a temple they once disrespected and now finally recognizes as sacred, bliss night. They feel the weight of every unreturned message, every unanswered question, bliss night. Every moment where you sat in silence waiting for closure that never came. They know that if you choose coldness, boundaries, or indifference, bliss night, they have no right to protest. You are no longer the one who needs answers. They are, bliss night. And that truth humbles them in a way their past self would have found unthinkable. The more they reflect, bliss night, the clearer it becomes that the emotional bond they had with you was the closest thing to real intimacy they ever experienced. Even if they denied it, bliss night, minimized it, or pretended it didn't matter, they felt safer with you than with anyone else, bliss night. You represented something they didn't know how to handle: emotional depth, authenticity, vulnerability, bliss night, and a level of connection that demanded honesty. You saw through them, past the surface, the bravado, bliss night, the self-protective behavior, and into the parts of themselves they had ignored for years. That is why avoiding you was easier than loving you, bliss night. You were the mirror that reflected everything they needed to confront. And now, after losing access to that connection, bliss night, they finally see its value with painful clarity. They finally understand that what they ran from was not you, it was themselves, bliss night. That realization cuts deeply, forcing them to acknowledge the emotional immaturity that cost them something irreplaceable, bliss night. Yet even with all this newfound awareness, their fear has not disappeared. If anything, it has doubled, bliss night. They fear that your silence will feel nothing like theirs once did. Their silence was a strategy, a defense mechanism, not a misguided attempt to stay in control. But your silence, if you choose it, will feel final. And when that message finally arrives, Bliss Knight, it will be the moment the universe hands the pen back to you. This time, Bliss Knight, you are not reacting from pain or confusion. You are responding from clarity, power, and truth, Bliss Knight. You decide whether this story gets another chapter or whether it ends exactly where it needs to end, Bliss Knight. You decide whether their words deserve space in your heart or whether they remain as echoes in your past. Whatever choice you make, Bliss Knight, let it come from strength, from self-worth, from the wisdom you earned through everything you survived. Chosen one, Bliss Knight. Trust your intuition now more than ever, because the next step is yours to take, and the universe is watching to see what you choose, Bliss Knight. If you feel this message was meant for you, claim your clarity, claim your peace, Bliss Knight, and type "I am ready" to step into the next chapter of your destiny.